Okay, so we are so excited to have Erin Bush on our call today. Erin she's on our team. I think Erin, I think you're like what level? I think you're like 11 or 12, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I think
I think I'm your 11 because I think yeah, because your sponsor Celeste, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm her
So,
12.
but we have she is amazing. And if you were at convention or if you weren't at convention, I'm sure you heard she brought the house, like I have chills even talking about it, brought the house down. She's an amazing story. She's just an amazing person. And I think that she touched each and every one of us at convention. And so I'm so thankful that she said she could be on this call. And y'all, she like literally is leaving for a trip as soon as she gets off of this call. So thank you for being on. And like I said, our numbers are low today because it's July, but I know that tons will be listening to this recording. So thank you again for allowing us to do that. So I'm gonna let you take over. If you have questions, put them in the comments. And if we have time at the end, we will answer them. So thank you, Erin.
Well, I am so honored to be on. Thank you so much, Beth, for asking me. I just, what a privilege and honor to be one Plexus. And I hope that my story, I'll give you a little more, everyone kind of wants to know, how that, because I touched on it at a convention, and what it comes down to is 10 years of debilitating health, and I became my diagnosis. And that was when that happens in your mind, it's debilitating to your spirit. And I was really choosing bitterness. In fact, I started Plexus with 185 friends on Facebook. And the reason I only had that many friends was because if something good had happened to you one time, I was somewhat happy for you. And if something good happened to you a second time, I was looking at you sideways. And if something happened good to you a third time, delete. And because I was so miserable in just my body and my mind, spiritually, I was in a desert. I could not read my Bible. I could not sit in church. I pushed my friends away. I would go to my hometown to visit my parents, and I would not leave the house. I refused to go to dinner. I refused to go shopping. I refused to go do anything fun. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to see anybody from my past who had known me, who I was before. I was embarrassed about my body. I was embarrassed about who I'd become. And I really had become a recluse. So Facebook was actually a bit of an outlet for me. I'm a somewhat extrovert by nature for the most part. A high school teacher by trade. I loved that period of my life. It was just so incredibly fulfilling for me. So to now be then deleting people on Facebook, that just kind of shows you the depth of my despair. So when we moved to Oklahoma, my kids were all about to go to school, and I thought, I got it. I'm desperate. Like, I am so miserable, angry, weeping, in pain. And I had spent thousands of dollars on naturopaths. So it's not like I had not tried, to feel better. And I thought, well, maybe this is a spirit thing. Maybe I need to get back to my first love. Maybe I need to get back to teaching. So I applied for a part-time teaching job at the school my kids went to, and got it. And I thought, when I got the phone call saying, we'd love to hire you, and I said yes, I thought, what am I doing? I mean, I can't even walk up and down stairs. I cannot go shopping for 4 or 5 hours during the day. I was lucky to get to one store a day if I needed to. So I'm to go grocery shopping, and I would have to choose activities. Like, do I make dinner that day, or do I go to the store? Do I go to Bible study, or do I it was so bad. So here I was. Now I'm going to go teach. I mean, I could hardly get out the door, my kids out the door. So I thought about, oh man, so many times calling and saying, I can't do this. And then it was that night that I was weeping on my bathroom floor. And my exact words were, you have my soul. Now take my broken, unattractive, unhealthy body and use it for your good. But you have to give me the strength to be used. I now remember where I was coming from. Here I am. I'm wanting to teach, wanting to be used by God again, not liking who I had become, but I was basic recluse. So a few days later, my friend of mine posted about Plexus. And you guys, I was like the ultimate network marketing hater. I thought my passion for teaching and my credentials were nobler than anything anyone could do from home. I was not a good friend. If people asked me to participate in parties or stuff, I would be so irritated. I would avoid them like the plague, and I would not go. And so I absolutely hated network marketing. And I really believe 100% that God had to bring me to a desperate place in order to set aside my pride and arrogance. Isn't it so funny to think of somebody who had no sense of self-worth, hiding because of their body, because of their spirit, and yet arrogant enough to say that she was better than a work from home job. And that plays into my Plexus business journey too. Ordered from a friend. Don't ever discount trial packs, y'all. Ever. I ordered 2 3-day trial packs of Slim and Accelerator. And then I thought, well, gosh, I've been sick a really long time. Maybe I should try it for a month. So I bought a month. And then I thought, gosh, I've been sick a really long time. Maybe I should try it for 3 months. And so God was already working in my mindset there. And the kicker was when my daughter, who was 12 at the time, and she would come home from school and take care of my other 2 little ones, came up to me and said, I like who you are now. Can I drink this drink too? And I mean, like, it just gives me chills to think about, because that moment was a turning point for me. Now, my husband had been telling me, you feel better. And I was argumentative with him. No, I don't. No, I don't. And I haven't lost any weight. This is supposed to be a weight loss, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, you really, you feel better. So but it was when your kid, right, comes to you and you really this is like the first step of me looking to see who had I become. Like, I had not ever looked inward. I knew I was miserable, but I had never looked inward, So that's when I signed up to be an ambassador, and my sponsor put me in 10 million, she was new to, all these groups. So now everybody's welcoming me, and we're so happy you're here, Erin, welcome. And I was like, who are those people, And I did not say I'm glad to be here or anything like that. And in fact, I sent her a message later, because I was watching, I was watching, and I'm like, these people just want to sell a product. They just want to make money. And I cannot believe that Probio 5 does not have to be refrigerated. My naturopath probiotic is so much better, blah, blah, blah. And she was so kind and loving. So there's my first tip. Always be so kind to even your grumpiest ambassadors. They might be a diamond in the making. But she just kept saying so simply, I really love it. People seem to really like it. Like, it was just so, calm. And then when I complained about all these people just wanting to sell products, she said, well, you can take yourself out of the groups. And I said, well, I'll take myself out of all of them, but maybe I'll stay in one. So I stayed in Melissa Eichenhorst, who was, I'm her 9, and she was a Sapphire at the time. And so I stayed in that one, and I continued to watch. Started Probio 5, and that was when that amazing triplex combo started to really work in my body. And at that point, I thought, my gosh, I've got to share this. Like, this is crazy. I was able to take a walk around the block, which I had not been able to do in so long. Like, I could actually put on exercise clothing and go walk for half a mile. That was a huge deal for me. So I thought, I've got to start sharing. I did not share about me. I shared about what I was doing for my family. I shared about other testimonies that really touched me. I shared when there was a sale, nothing about me. It was not personal. It was not vulnerable. It was not authentic, nothing. And while I'm sharing is when I put the negative comment on one of Melissa's posts. And that moment, you guys, okay, here's another tip. You have negativity on your team page, private message, and be upbeat and sweet about it. Give that person the benefit of the doubt. If she had called me out right there on the page, I would have been gone. If she had sent a message to me, because she says she remembers being mad. If she had sent a message to me that was kind of condescending or was like, what are you doing? We don't act like this, blah, 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 whatever, I would have been gone. And instead she's like, what's up, Erin? I saw your comment. I'm just wanting to know what are you thinking about this? Like, so open. And I denied it up and down that it wasn't negative. It was negative, y'all. It was negative. And but it made me look at me. And at this point, physically, I'm feeling really good, like better than I have in 10 years. But spiritually and mentally and emotionally, mindset-wise, I was still stuck in that miserable, bitter place. So this made me look at me. And that I'm so grateful for that message. As embarrassing as it might be to have gotten, please be more positive on my team. Or she didn't say it like that. She's like, I try really hard to keep my team page positive. You guys love your grumpiest ambassadors because I changed. It was a defining moment. And I started reading self-development books and listening to Sonia Dudley on YouTube and getting everything I could get about developing myself and loving myself again. That's what I started working on. And it was my first book was Circle Maker by Mark Batterson, where I understood how deep and great God's love is for us. You guys, I was saved at 4 years old. I have been in church my whole life. And I have never felt worthy of Jesus Christ's love. I was always waiting for the shoe to drop. The negative shoe to drop, something bad to happen. Always feeling never good enough, never loving myself. And that first book just made me understand how big God is and how much He wants us to dream big and pray big and build our faith. It was a huge moment. And then the other one was Failing Forward by John Maxwell. That book was another turning point for me in the very beginning. I had failed and failed and failed and failed and failed at diets over the years. I had failed at, the supplementation protocols that I took and things like that had failed. It's not necessarily that I had failed at that, but I'd had so much failure in my life that I stopped making New Year's resolutions because I would sit down with a New Year's resolution and be like, you can't do this. There's no way. Why even bother? And so I just stopped. I hated New Year's because I always wanted the new year to be a fresh start for me. And to make a goal, I would immediately I would be my own worst enemy. So now to make goals is like, we want to make goals in Plexus. And I have had to learn in front of my kids how to fail forward. So that was, and so that has been kind of my journey to, and now I love network marketing. It's like the best thing on the planet. And so I just think that God has got to be laughing a little bit because here I am, such a hater and so arrogant, and God had completely taken that away from me. And so anyway, that's just, don't ever put aside the people who hate it. You just never know what will turn someone. And I think I'm a really good example of this. But let me talk a little bit more about something else. Here I am representing a health and wellness company. And I remember one time I was at Disneyland, walking around Disneyland, and it was my first time to Disneyland since being on Plexus. And I was in a Plexus shirt, and I was limping. Like I was in horrible pain. And I sat down on a bench and I thought, I need to change. I need to go take my shirt off, go buy a Disneyland shirt. I cannot be representing Plexus when I'm walking around like this. And my husband, so amazing. He is so good at helping me remember where I was so I don't beat myself up of where I am right now. So that's one thing I'd like to talk to you about too, is your expectation for your business, your expectation for your health. nix it. Progress is progress, no matter how small. Last month, did you read a book on mindset? Did you get something out of it? Progress is progress, no matter how small. Did you eat better 5 out of 7 days of the week most of the time? Progress is progress, no matter how small. One person added to your team, one customer that you got, somebody had a really great health goal that they met that you helped. Progress is progress, no matter how small. And, understanding that helps you move forward even when you don't meet those expectations or your goals. Okay, so I actually have a little bit of just a couple of steps I was going to go through for you, because people always ask, okay, so how do jewels get to jewel status? How do they, and everybody has different personalities and different backgrounds and all this stuff, but I've seen a few things that I think like are universal when it comes to jewels. So I'm going to go through those really quick. One is you have got to love people. You have to. And I'll tell you why. This is the best enterprise on the planet, but it is the hardest because you are putting yourself out there, and that fear of rejection and that snide remark you might hear from somebody, man, it can eat at you. I get it. Or being misunderstood for your intentions. Oh man, that is so hard when you want the best for someone else. But if you approach everybody with an unselfish attitude, they're not a number, they're not points, they're not an incentive step, but rather they're a human being who desperately needs what we have. And don't we have everything? And I don't mean just health and finances, you guys. We have community, we have friendship, we have training on how to be your best self. Where else can you get, I don't know any 40-hour job where they do mostly self-development coaching. And isn't that what we do? 90% of your success in your business is from you pouring into you. And boy, that's really something for someone who's recovering from zero self-worth to understand. But I had to understand that if I wanted to be able to pour into others, I had to pour into myself first. There's actually a theory out there that you can't love people completely well until you love yourself. And I am a work in progress for sure. Fear shows up for me every single day. That's something else I discovered too. And so you don't just conquer fear and you're done. Like, no, it shows up every day. Those negative thoughts that have been in my head for 10 years, they show up every day. So guess what? I show up every day. And sometimes I wallow and sometimes I cry a little. And sometimes my husband has to tell me to snap out of it in a very loving way because, but it shows up every day. So understanding that you are loving people unselfishly, that you love them enough to tell them about Plexus. You love them enough to listen to what they need. People don't want to hear like the details of the ingredients. They just, most people don't. It's a very small percentage of people. They want to know your story very briefly. And 2, they want to know how it's going to help them. They want to know about them. So love enough to listen, which means asking questions. And love your Plexus partners. And I'm not talking about your power partner. I'm sure you love your power partner. I'm talking about your customers, your wholesale ambassadors. Love them. Love them. Love them enough to know their goals. Love them enough to be consistent in following up with them. Love them. They are not just PV. They are not just points. They are people who have goals, and you are going to find them out, and you're going to know them well, and you're going to love them well. That is your job. Okay, the next thing. Step 2, you must be coachable. I just love the jewel pages. And someday when you are on there, you're going to love them too, because you know what the number one thing is? What do you guys think about how can I improve, blah, 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 blah. It's always about improvement. It's always about coachability. It's always about learning constantly. Like that is what is posted in the jewel pages. How can I be better today? John Maxwell talked about that at convention. Celebrate your best today, but how can you be better tomorrow? How can I be better tomorrow? And sometimes maybe that means just you're consistent with your devotion. Maybe that is you are reading a self-development book, whatever it is but how can you be better the next day? So be coachable. Do honest self-evaluation of your business. Go to your upline, somebody you respect, somebody who's doing well, and just ask them, can you take a look at my page? What could I be doing better? Can you take a look at this message that I just sent somebody and I'm getting no response? How could I rewrite it that it would be better? I did that in the beginning. I was hungry. I would look and look and look and look until I could find somebody who was willing to pour into me and who was better at what I was doing so that I could learn. So be coachable. Oh, and one more tip on that, you guys, if you have a downline, or even if you don't, let's just say you need to learn the compensation plan. You're a brand new ambassador. You're ready to run. Teach your spouse, teach your kids, teach somebody, your best friend, about the compensation plan. The best way to learn is to teach, is to train. Do you know why I do these? It's not just about one plexus. Guess who is learning the most on this call? Me. So whoever you have, if you have a power partner, if you have one ambassador, do what you can to, you know what? And when you're doing mindset books, this is my biggest tip right here. You're about to get it. When you are doing mindset books, you teach your kids what you are learning. You train your kids. Train your kids to capture those negative thoughts and replace them with God's truth. That is your legacy. If you have kids, if you're a teacher, you have students, if you just have coworkers, you teach the world around you how to capture negative thoughts and replace them with truth. What if everybody did that? How incredible. That is the influence. That is your sphere of influence right there. I just got on a little tangent there. Sorry. Okay, step 3, you must create a vision. That is one thing that I see with Jules is they have big vision. That doesn't mean they don't get discouraged. That doesn't mean that they don't have disappointment. They do. You know what they do different? They get themselves up. They pull themselves up and they take the next step. They may wallow for a little while, but they pull themselves up because their vision is big. My vision, my husband was chief risk officer, corporate executive in a multi-million-dollar healthcare company. And he made very good income. We did not need an income from Plexus, but he had no time. He was working 70, 80 hours a week. 60 days a week was a good week. And he was missing everything and had for years. And when I started watching people replacing their 40-hour income and, doing really well with Plexus, I started going, maybe this could be something for us. And even though he likes his job, he doesn't like his job. You know what I mean? It's because it's exhausting. So I thought, all right, my goal is I'm going to retire him. And I started saying it when I was just about senior gold maybe. I'm going to retire you. Like, I'm going to bring you home so you can be home and you can do whatever you want. You can golf, you can do this, whatever. And then one day I was senior gold and I'll never forget where we were standing in the family room and he was sitting on the couch and he looked at me and he said, I hate that word retirement. I have worked too hard to get to where I am. So I don't want to hear about it anymore. Now, he was so supportive of me, and he even loved the compensation plan. He loved tracking the checks. He loved tracking the team growth. He's a finance guy. He loved all that stuff. But I'd been using the word retirement, and he worked really hard for what he had, guys, and he did not want to come home. And all of a sudden, right there, my why blew up in my face. I was a senior gold. Now, I will tell you exactly what I said, and I am 100% positive that if I had not been for months working on my mindset and how to change negative to positive, I would never have responded the way I did. This is what I said. Okay. I'm going to make enough that you can come home if you want to. And I won't use the word retirement again. And he couldn't say anything to that. Because now the ball's in his court, right? And you guys, he's seriously the most supportive person on the planet. But it was that moment, like that was a turning moment for me. So I learned not to use the word retirement anymore. And then a few months down the road, I recorded him saying, when you reach blah, 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 I will come home, and basically it was a big, like I had to work really hard. But anyway, but do you see what I'm saying? My why, even though my why had suddenly kind of turned on its head, I moved from negative to positive. So you have to create a vision. And let me talk to you real quick about how to make the vision a reality. Like I never really was someone who would say to meditate and pray about a vision. Like I would have never said that in the past. But I started reading books and praying about my big vision. So one of the things I started to do is I wanted to get to Emerald. So I started imagining 1,500 points in my back office. Like, what would it be like to open this up and look at 1,500 points? And what if it said at the top, Erin Bush, Emerald Ambassador? And then I started imagining going across stage and holding a little green jewel and it being all green all around. And then I started thinking about people doing graphics, like when I would do a graphic for my team and saying Erin Bush, Emerald Ambassador. And then I started physically thinking about what would it be like. And I imagined someone standing on stage and saying to the people in the audience, if you're Emerald, stand up. And so I would imagine myself standing up. And I did this daily when I would have quiet time and I would sit down, and after my prayer and devotion and all that stuff, I would envision being Emerald. My first leaders retreat, I was a Ruby, and I was sitting in the audience when a speaker said, if you're Emerald, stand up. And one of the emeralds in my upline was sitting a couple of seats down, and she stood up. You guys, my hands went on my seat. My bottom cheeks clenched, and I literally almost stood up. And I probably actually kind of, did this. And I just flushed with embarrassment. I was Ruby. I was not Emerald. I had no business standing up yet, but I was thrilled because this meant that my vision was going to happen. And my vision was working. Like all that intentional mindset work I was doing, it was working. So yeah, I kept that up. So do that. Find a quiet spot daily and pour into yourself. Okay. I'm going back to my notes really, really quick. All right. You must develop drive. It is primitively put into us to be safe, to not do anything outside the status quo, to not do anything scary. So one of the things I would suggest you do is when you write your goals down, write down 3 ways you're going to go outside your comfort zone in that month. I actually am really big on bringing your family in to support you in your goals. If you have little kiddos in your home still, put a whiteboard on your wall. Put down that mommy wants to bring in, 3 new ambassadors this month and 3 new customers, and you want how many people on your team this month, and put little boxes. And then at the bottom, put, I'm going to go outside my comfort zone however many times. Do a sip and see, whatever. And then when you accomplish something, let your kids go right in the box. Mommy did this. Put up, if you want to reach a rank, put up the rank and circle it. And you need to have some, reasonable expectation of that. But let your kids be involved. In fact, the other thing I did was I gave my 2 younger ones a stack of Post-it notes, like an actual, I split it in half, gave them a stack of Post-it notes. Write down, Mommy is Emerald. You did it. You're a jewel. They knew what the Plexus compensation plan was. They understood ranking and promotion. And those 2 put sticky notes all over my house. I didn't care where they were. I didn't care if anybody saw them. They put them in places all over the house. That was huge for me because daily I was being reminded of what I was working towards. You want to talk, because one of our biggest problems is being inconsistent. It is, you are consistent when you got little ones telling you to be consistent. So that was huge. And put on there, going outside your comfort zone. Because as Jules, we have to do that. And even now, your comfort zone, as you get more uncomfortable, becomes bigger. That might be, you might have to really jump. But that was one of the things I would suggest to do. Drive and action. That is absolutely huge. Even if you don't know what to do, do something. Imperfection is better than nothing. So some people really struggle with the perfect post, and it takes them hours to write up a post. You guys, an imperfect post is more important than doing nothing. So just get it up and get it out there. We're always improving. You're not going to be perfect right now. Okay. Then the last one, step 5, you have got to know yourself. All of the most amazing entrepreneurs and people who have made massive differences in our world were thinkers. This is really tough for us in the culture that we are in. We get little panic attacks and we don't know where our phone is. So this is my encouragement to you. You have got to find a certain amount of time a day. I don't care if it's 10 minutes. It's got to be more than 5, but it doesn't have to be an hour, where you are alone with no distractions. Maybe you have a self-development book. You have a notebook and a pen, and you are being still so that you can think and be creative. For me, this was taking a bath every single night. No one's going to bother mom when you're in there. And if they beat on the door, well, I ignored them. Unless it was an emergency, of course. But daddy's usually home by then. Usually everybody's in bed, and I am alone. And what I would do is I would take the book I was reading, and I would read, not to just read. I don't like this whole, I want to get through a book in a month. No, I don't care if it takes you 3 months. Because what I would do is I would read until something hit me, and I was like, okay, I need to work on that. I need to think about that. I would make notations in my books. I can't ever give my books out for loan because they are covered in notes, personal notes of things I need to work on and that I've learned from that book. So I would read until I learned. Then I would sit and meditate on it, sit and think about it, sit and make notes about it. And then in my notebook, I would write down my dreams, and I would circle, just like in that book I was talking about with Circle Maker, my desires and my prayers and my hopes. It was a prayer time, but it was also a vision time. Be still. My phone was nowhere near me. It was hard to do, but nowhere near me. A book, my notebook, and a pen, and me. And that's it. It was huge for my business. My most creative times are times when I can just be still and be disconnected and think. And that is what you've got to do for self-development too. If you want to ever discover what is truly holding you back, if you feel stuck, you have got to be quiet and start writing down the lies that you are believing so that you can find them, because most of the time we don't even know we're saying them to ourselves. We don't know. We are so habitual in our thinking negatively that we sabotage ourselves before we even get started. I can't tell you how many people I've seen actually sabotage themselves from ranking. Isn't that shocking? But it's true. We do this to ourselves. Okay, so you have got to have this period of time in your day, every day, where you are alone and you are still and you can think, so that you can find those lies and then replace them with truth. You've also got to rewrite those lies for truth. And get into God's word, read Psalm 139. If you don't feel self-worth, you read Psalm 139 and you meditate on it. But so anyway, okay, that is my, let me see if I want to say anything about that. Here's the other thing during that time. So many times we focus on our weaknesses and how we can improve them instead of nurturing our strengths for our business. My strength is not organization. I am the most scatterbrained person on the planet. And I like just papers everywhere, just papers, just so unorganized. It's not my strength. I would never be an ingredient guru. Do I know the ingredients now? Yeah. But I'm not an ingredient guru. My strength was vision and inspiration and motivation and encouragement. So I built my business on that. So do Strength Finder 2.0 if you need to. Find out what your strengths are and then use them. I have somebody on my team who is so good at talking to people in person, but on social media, not good. Now, are they working on social media and trying to build a business on social media? Yes, they are. But guess where they spend the majority of their time in building their business? In person. Because that is what they are good at. That's their strength. And that's what you should be doing too. What is your strength? Hone, nurture, refine, sharpen your strength. Most of the time, that's what you spend the majority of your time on. And then you can hone and strengthen your weaknesses on the side. Look, a little side job. All right, so do that. And one of the things you may know, I don't know what my strengths are. Find out. That is what that Be Still time will do. There are things out there that can help you. Ask people. That's another part of being coachable. What are my strengths? If you don't know, find out and then build a business on them. Okay, 90% of your success in this business is going to be because of your self-development. People are not joining for products and they are not joining for compensation plan. Guess why they're joining you? They're joining you for you. For you, for the way you love them, for the way you're helping them, for the fact that you actually reached out to them in the first place. So you have got to work on you. Okay, that's everything. I have it. There it is.
And it was awesome. I'm still writing notes. I have like all these notes. Okay, so I have to ask you this. Okay, so because your vision, you were like, I am going to be emerald. Everything's green. I'm going to stand up. So when you were on this year, when they said, if you're a diamond, stand up. And then they said, Erin Bush, you're going to represent the diamonds. Like, you just have to tell us what that felt like. I mean, seriously, because like yeah.
Well, you know, I'm going to actually backtrack a little bit. So I'm plus size, obviously. And that has been a real battle for me in my mindset in representing a health and wellness company. And so what I realized in the beginning was, this is not about me. Like, that's where my unselfish training comes from. Because if I wallowed in my size and I just struggle terribly with everything working against me genetically to lose weight, and I just plainly don't do it well. And see, I'm going to change that mindset. I just now revealed part of my own lie to myself. But I have had to overcome that negative mindset, like that it is okay for me to represent a health and wellness company. And my husband reminds me all the time, like, where I was and where I am now. So that's a little background on coming to asking to be represented for the diamonds. And I mean, obviously honor and humbled, but then I realized too, it is not about, like, what my words were not about me. So when I was writing out what I was going to say, and I was even starting to dream about it ahead of time, I realized that I had to put a little bit of my story out there, but it wasn't about me. And you guys, I was so nervous and so anxious. And I don't mind speaking in front of people. I actually enjoy it. But I thought I was going to be sick. I mean, I was just, so nerve-wracking. But I'll tell you this, what happened. 2 days before, I'm texting to my sister, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know. And she said later, she stopped and prayed. And then she texted me back and she said, you need to surrender this entire thing to God. And that word changed everything. And so I spent some be still time and I surrendered it to him. And the night before, that whole you are not defined by, the only one I knew ahead of time I was going to say is, you are not defined by the box, by the number on the box on your bathroom floor. I knew I was going to say that. But you are not defined by your diagnosis. And you're not defined by generational behavior. And I'm talking about negative family passed down generational behavior there. and the points in your back office, that was God, like 100%. Because you guys, I am not defined by a diagnosis. You are not defined by your weight. I am not defined by my weight. I am so much more, so much greater, so much more worthy because of Christ Jesus and what he has done. Who cares? You love people well, and your size does not matter. Your points in your back office, if they're lower than your expectations, don't look backwards anymore. That's the other thing that vision will help you do. It will help you look forward instead of backward. When you have a constant reminder of what you're working toward, you will not have the constant reminder of where you're not yet. All right. So that's that. So it was woo. And God was good, and wasn't he good?
And it was amazing. And I am 100% convinced that you changed many, many lives that day when you spoke, and that you were chosen for a amazing reason. And God had major plans with that. And I mean, like, just reading these comments, like holding back tears, what an amazing blessing you are. And what an amazing blessing Plexus is. And what an amazing journey and family. And what else is, we are a part of something really cool and really special. And so, and you can speak it so wonderfully. And so thank you. There are a couple questions, if you don't mind, just for a second. Sure. I know that, let's see, Kendall asked, she got logged on late. And so, I'll type in the books that you said, but do you have a couple other self-development books that you love?
One of my personal favorites is, Self-Talk, Soul Talk. I can't remember the author. And it's so funny because, part of my whole journey has been to stop hiding and to be authentic and vulnerable. And I had never heard of, is her name Brene Brown? But I'm starting to, Circle Maker, I'm starting to read some of her stuff. The other one I absolutely adore and think that you need to do, but in a time where you don't rush through it. You have to go slow, 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 slow. It's The Secret Code of Success. Chapter 4 on, there are nuggets in that book that will help you turn inward, like on forgiving yourself, on asking yourself questions, that affirmations. I'm sure many of you have heard of this book. It was real popular in the Plexus community recently. It's called Secret Code of Success. And then Self-Talk, Soul Talk, Failing Forward, Circle Maker are probably my 4 favorites. The other one that will help you love people well is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And if you're not a book reader, be a book listener. Like, it's okay to listen instead and have your little notebook where you pause and write down. Do what works for you. You don't have to be inside a box. It's about being your best self. So
I'm reading. I am not a reader. I will just go ahead and say that at all. And I'm a terrible example to my children about that. We're trying to do summer reading over here, and I'm like, go do summer reading, but I am reading a book right now. I started reading it on the airplane home. And it was, I can't think of the name of it, but it's by Jenny Allen, and Melissa talked about it at convention. And somebody texted me to find out what the, who wrote it. It was by Jenny Allen. I cannot even think of the name. If anybody knows the name, type it on here. But I'm reading it. And seriously, I started on the plane on Sunday. And it's not a little book. And I'm more than halfway through. And I'm like, oh, this is huge for me. That's a huge, because I've never been a reader. I can read Us magazine on airplanes, but not big books. But I have, throughout Plexus, I have read several books. But that is one thing, when you're growing, if you've never been a reader, to become a reader. But it is, the book I'm reading now is just talking about, that you don't, that you, yes, nothing to prove. That's right, Kendall. Nothing to prove, but just that, you don't have to be who you think. You don't, all these expectations that you have for yourself. Yep. And you put in yourself that everything, to me, is everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be this way. And that's so me all the time. And when I get out of that, I get in disarray and I start spinning. And when everything, like I'm sitting here at my desk, you were making me laugh because talking about papers. So Scott and I share a desk now, and there are papers everywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is making me crazy. When he gets home, we're going to talk. No. Anyways, but it is just reading that and like letting you know it's okay. These things they build you up, they encourage you, these books. And it's okay. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. But in your mind, you set these expectations for you. So
yep. In fact, I should probably say this because I just feel like I want to give you permission. If there is, like on social media, a lot of times we follow people who we are inspired by and so on, but sometimes we get to the point where we start to feel less than that someone we're following because we've built them up in our minds. We start to feel less than. So if you are following anybody and it's not their fault and it's not your fault, it is just that right now your brain is comparing, and Satan's probably using it, comparing you to them. And if following them makes you feel less than, it's okay to unfollow. You don't have to unfriend, but it is okay for a period of time to unfollow if someone is just making you. It's not that they're doing it either. It's here, right? Like, there have been people in my journey, I'm like, I wish I was like them. I wish I was like them. And I realized, my gosh, I'm like sitting here comparing and beating myself up every time they post just because I have started comparing myself to them. And you guys, I don't unfriend. I just unfollow for a period of time because I need to be working on me. And does that make sense?
It's so wise. Like, I'm like, yes. And, I have to say this because, so many times we just put, obviously you don't want to be like super negative all the time on Facebook, but you do put the good stuff, right? And you put, all this stuff. And so coming home from vacation, we had a little bit of a crazy vacation. Scott was injured. Jake got sick, just lots of stuff. And, we always put the good out there and I think that so much. Everybody has this life behind Facebook, right? But that's not what we see. And so when you look at people, you think, gosh, they have it all together. Everything is so perfect. And nothing is, their life is not perfect either. And so I really was like, I'm going to post a couple of the things that happened on our trip because that's the truth. And that's the reality is that, we do look at that. We look at the Pinterest. We look at the bloggers. We look at the Instagram stories. In fact, I was just reading in this book last night talking about, you with this Instagram story, it makes you look at these equal up. I don't look like that. And that's so wise. If somebody is getting to you like that, unfollow them. They'll never know it anyways. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Don't put that on yourself. Seriously, you are created to be who you are. And you are made perfectly who you are. And you are reaching people who you are. And that is so important. And we all need to remember that God created us to be exactly who we are. And people love us for who we are. And if we try to be somebody else, people aren't going to believe us because it's not who we are. And so anyways, that's so wise. That is such a wise statement, Erin. Thank you for that. Seriously. So, okay. Does anybody else have anything else? Alicia has something. Alicia, you want to mute? There you go.
Hey, Erin.
Hey, Alicia.
I put this in the comments. I think it got lost. You were talking about vision, and I was writing it down, and I wasn't writing fast enough, but I loved it. And you said something about having constant reminder of what you're looking forward to. You forget.
Oh, just where you haven't come yet, like where you are not yet. And my whole point in that is just one of the things, like when I'm coaching somebody, I realize that they're like constantly talking about the fact that they haven't yet. So what? If you change one life at a time and you look forward, this is not, something you're going to be in for a year and you're done. I mean, this is your business and this is your life and this is your joy. And so anyway, looking forward instead of looking backwards. So
love it.
I just need Erin to be like on speed dial. She can give me words of encouragement every day. Like, seriously, you are just absolutely amazing. So thank you. And thank you. I mean,
Erin, I've been getting texts this whole time from my team that's listening in right now, and they are loving it, every word. So, and a lot of them weren't even at convention. So I just appreciate you so much taking the time for us today.
Well, you guys are so welcome. So, well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Have fun on your, are y'all, I guess you're going on vacation if you're getting in your RV. Where are you?
Well, yeah, my husband still he does a consulting business now. So we're actually going back to Oklahoma for a little while.
Because y'all are in California now, right?
Yep. We're in California now. Yep. So,
but you're from Oklahoma.
Well, no, I'm actually originally from California. So I came home.
Oh, okay. I always get them mixed up when I think, I'm like, does she live in Oklahoma now or California now? Or where's home? So anyway, so home is California.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, and y'all be safe and have a great time and enjoy those babies and just enjoy all of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.